Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about the one and only Kaspa coin. We will be covering some massive news that came out not too long ago. We do have the official date, ladies and gentlemen, when we will be, doing the mainnet hard fork, right, for Crescendo, right, going from 1 BPS all the way to 10. If you guys don't know, we recently, just a couple of weeks ago, were in the beta and it was successful, right? It was beyond successful. Things were looking great. Any little bugs or any issues that there were surrounding with Kaspa or, going from 1 to 10 BPS, all got resolved. And yeah, I mean, just a couple of things we got to talk about. We'll talk about the charts. We'll talk about Bitcoin a little bit, and where I see Kaspa in the near future and in the long-term future. So we can see, ladies and gentlemen, right? We can see that everything is being completed. Everything is on track, right? Completed, right? Any, launch and stabilization, identify bottlenecks, additional features, TN10 activation, feature freeze data completed, the main hard fork version, March 31st, and then the mainnet deployment on May 5th. All right, so May 5th, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the day that Kaspa officially changes for the rest of our lives, right? It is the official day where Kaspa pretty much pack-a-punches 10 times in power. All right. This is why I'm super high and optimistic about this coin. This is why I've been, dollar cost averaging between, let's say roughly 5.5 cents to the 8 cent mark, right? I've been really buying there because I truly do believe this is one of those coins that, man, no matter what happens with crypto, this is something that I see it being here in the long term and having real use in the crypto markets, right? So we can see, right, that they are also going to be pretty much, in Hong Kong, right? April 8th, we can see the times. We can see, who's going to be there, who's going to be talking. So, probably a lot of important news is also going to come around that time, that period. So we will be looking at that. Other than that, right, they're just constantly talking about little updates, the countdown begins May 5th, right? May 5th is the big day. And other than that, there's not much to cover in terms of news. I believe, unless I'm very mistaken, we covered this, new listing from Hybit. And if we didn't, new listing just a couple of days ago. So we can see every couple of days they drop an absolute banger, which is what we like to see. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe eventually this coin will be on some of the biggest exchanges, right? I know a lot of people are worried about that, but just take into perspective that we are sitting roughly at 1.6, 1.7 billion market cap, right? And that's considered very low, right? And, pretty much in a perfect buy zone. And when we look, we're still not on, Coinbase. We're still not on Binance. We're still not on some other big and medium exchanges. And that's just more bullish news, right? If we can already be chilling, let's just say, over the last few months, right? Anywhere between, 1.5 billion market cap upwards of 5 billion. Imagine what's going to happen when we start getting listed on exchanges, once there's more adoption in crypto, once altcoin season is going to be here, once we pack a punch from 1, BPS all the way, up to 10. Imagine what's going to happen then, right? It's going to be very exciting times, and I cannot wait for it, ladies and gentlemen. I am super excited. Listen, right? The weekly candle did close in terms of technical analysis, pretty bad at roughly 6.5 cents. However, ladies and gentlemen, we also have the new monthly candle tomorrow, but not only that, we also have the quarterly candle ending too. We can see the last 3 months, the last 9 months actually, we have been closing pretty bearish, right? Every 3 months, we've been closing lower and lower than we previously were. But listen, this is not a Kaspa issue. This is a market issue, and I'm still super optimistic about this coin. I think right now is actually a very fantastic time to be buying. And I also think, there's a small chance we go downwards of, roughly 5 cents, where I'll definitely be putting a very big bag, right? Very big bag. We can see though, we are, on top of this zone over here. right? This order block area, and we are kind of starting to consolidate on the 4 hours. So, if we continue to consolidate and start breaking out, there is a good chance that this could be the start of the reversal. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we always have to look how the dailies close, and we always have to get above, you know, above certain areas to truly get, confirmation, right? Because we can see, all the things were going up here, they were looking good, but then we started to lose momentum, right? We started to get, really weak daily closes, and that's why, we sold off the last few days. But we did talk about this price point previously, anyways, that I believe Kaspa will most likely pull back to roughly the, 6 cent mark, upwards of 6.5 cent, right? We did talk about that before. So it's not a surprise. It is not a surprise that it played out. We obviously will be monitoring everything. And, the reason why it's also very important, these quarterly candles, is because it's same thing for Bitcoin, right? Same thing for Bitcoin, same thing for other coin, everything's closing. But the thing is with Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen, is that, Bitcoin's context is a little different, right? The last 3 months, not counting January, February, in March, pretty much October, November, December, we blasted up from roughly 60K upwards of 110,000, right? And then the last 3 months, generally speaking, we have been going down. But ladies and gentlemen, I believe the purpose of this 3 month candle is pretty much to get some kind of retest, right? Retest off of these highs over here, right? Because I believe we do want to go higher, right? I believe as of right now, this is a high, this is a low, this is a higher high, this is a higher low, and I do believe we will have at least one or maybe two more pushes left in this cycle, most likely one big one, before we, start crashing back down or getting some type of correction, right? Which is very, very relevant for us, which means Bitcoin is not done its cycle yet. And, this is also proven with Bitcoin dominance, right? Kaspa and other coins are not going to start flying until we get to a certain point with Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance, I believe, in the short term will hit, roughly the 64% area, probably have some type of sell off, between 1 to 3%. And then we're going to probably have the final rally where we go upwards of 68 to 71% dominance, which is very, very high. However, ladies and gentlemen, right, the higher you go on a roller coaster, the bigger and faster and deeper the drop will be, which is perfect for us, right? Because we're probably going to sell off sharp, go sideways, kind of the way we went here for many weeks, and then we're going to be dumping very, very big over a span of 6 to 8 weeks, the exact same way we had over here during the first altcoin season many, many years ago, back in 2021, right? So that is probably when Kaspa is going to be in its prime, is when we might start recovering a little bit for Kaspa, maybe get up to, like, let's say 10, 12, 11 cents. And then once we get up to here and we crash down and then we start consolidating for a while, that's when Kaspa's probably gonna be building up, let's just say from like 12 cents to like, 20, maybe 25. And then when this starts happening, right, the big, big sell off, that's when Kaspa can go from like 25 cents to literally $1.50, $2, right? And that's literally what all we're waiting for. The big fun time is usually only roughly 4 to 6 weeks. Of course, there's some previous buildup before it too, but until then, it's just a Bitcoin show, right? It is just the Bitcoin show. So I had to tell you guys about that because it's very, very important for you guys to understand. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.